Alright, folks, how you doing? So, upon doing further research into the Bruces, the Douglases, and the Stewarts, I came across something quite extraordinary that a lot of people don't know. I would say, actually, most people don't even know. And that includes most people who are of Clan Bruce or Douglas or Stewart. And that's that they're actually Jewish in origin. Now, I was recommended this book by Michael Tazarian, though I already had it, but it was good they recommended it. So I decided to check it out, and I thought, just on the off chance, I wonder if one of these families, maybe two of them, have Jewish roots. Because it's not something you would commonly, think of. Like, you know, would these would these families have Jewish origins? It turned out to be a complete home run. They all do. They're all Jews. That is, they're all descended from the ancient tribes of Israel who, dispersed into Europe following the defeat of Jerusalem, and when the Jewish people became wanderers and you know spread to the four winds. And Tazarian talks a lot about this in Unslave, like where the Jews went when they intermingled with the royal bloodlines of Europe and all that. I definitely recommend the Unslave podcast. He goes into all that in quite extraordinary depth. And I'm just kind of beginning to wrap my head around it right now. But they're all Jewish, and you'd be amazed how many, Scottish families, or what you think of as Scottish families, really have Norman Jewish ancestry. They're both Norman and Jewish. It's quite something. There's a lot of them. There's a lot of Scottish families who have that. Who have that origin, who have those roots. Going all the way back to the biblical Israelites. But anyway, let's get into the book here and see what it has to say. Alright, so here we have the passage from the book, When Scotland Was Jewish. And here it says that the Bruce family of Flanders and Normandy entered England in 1050 as part of the entourage of Duke Richard I. The family remained in Britain subsequent to the conquest of England by Richard's son William the Conqueror in 1066. Robert de Bruce married a Norman woman, Agnes St. Clair, and was the son of a Norman woman, Emma of Brittany. Other members of the de Bruce family in France emigrated not only to England, but also to what are now Hungary, Germany, the Netherlands, and Poland. Some members of this family were and are practicing Jews. Our research question is whether the de Bruce family in England and later Scotland were practicing Jews as well. As their genealogy shows, several Hebrew and Mediterranean given names are found among the early Bruces. Among these are Adam, Emma, Isabel, Agnes, Agatha, Euphemia, David, Matilda, and Eleanor. By the early 1300s, the Bruce family in Scotland had produced Robert I de Bruce, King of Scotland, who reigned from 1306 to 1329. Robert I, King of the Scots, married Isabel of Mar, 1295, producing a child, Marjorie de Bruce. The de Mar family, i.e. from the sea ocean, was also French Mediterranean in origin. Robert subsequently married Elizabeth de Burgh, also of French origin, having a daughter with her as well, Matilda, Maud. Robert I also had a son, David, 1325, by either Elizabeth or a mistress, and two additional children, Elizabeth and Robert, by mistresses. What should draw out attention at this point are the spouses of Robert I's children. Matilda/Maud married Thomas Isaac, a man with an undeniably Hebrew surname, which Jacobs found to be the most common among British Jews during this time period. From this union came Joanna, who married John de Erguerdia, of French origin. I'm sorry if I butchered that. Producing a daughter, Isabel, who married Sir John Stewart. From this union sprang the Stewarts of Cardeny. Further, Robert I's daughter, Elizabeth, by an unknown mistress, married Sir Walter Oliphant, a family surname also known to be Sephardic. This lineage, together with the DNA evidence of a Southern French or Spanish Jewish origin for the Bruces, strongly suggests that this family was aware of its Judaic heritage and chose marital partners and given names designed to perpetuate this heritage. when Bruce's came from Scotland, when Bruce's from Scotland arrived in the American colonies during the 1600s and 1700s, the marital pattern, or at least some members suggest, that the crypto-Judaic practice had been carried forward to the New World. And then it goes into this whole genealogical chart talking about the Bruce family. So there you have it. That covers Robert the Bruce. Now if we go to Douglas, see what comes up. Here we are. This noble Scots family first appeared in Britain around 1300 and settled on the Scottish border. One standard reference book observes that the Douglases were one of Scotland's most powerful families, and it is therefore remarkable that their origins remain obscure. We have seen in Chapter 2 that the Douglases have many branches, but all seem to agree in being originally Gothic, with the majority of DNA matches turning up in the Iberian Peninsula. And notice actually a video that I put up earlier saying that they were Pictish Gaelic, according to House of Names. And remember in the original response video I said that the Picts, their proper name was the Iberi, and that they shared heritage with the Basques. So the Picts may have come from the Iberian Peninsula. That's a speculation, no. But a lot of the evidence seems to point in that direction. And Iberia is where you find Basque country and, Spain and Portugal. And also the first trade partners of Scotland were Portugal. So yeah, this is all kind of starting to fit in. The name Douglas means dark stranger in Gaelic, and may have originated from the Mediterranean complexions of the family's founders. Well, yeah, the Black Douglas, for example. The Black Douglases, so named for their dark colouring, well, they're Iberian obviously, were the dominant force on the borders between England and Scotland from 1300 to 1455. Family portraits attest to their ancestral Mediterranean how do you say this word? Physiognomy? I don't know. Sorry, I don't know how to pronounce that word. Septs associated with the Douglas clan include Blackstock, Blalock, Brown, Drysdale, Forrest, Inglis, Kilgore, Kirkpatrick, Lockerbie, McGuffey, Morton, Sandilands, Sewell, Symington, Troop, and Young. That's interesting because one of my grandparents was called Young. The following genealogy is based on the Black Douglases. William of Douglas is the first of the Douglas name for which any certain record has been found. He is thought to have been born in or before 1174. William was surely related to, probably brother-in-law of Freskin the Fleming, who came to Scotland before the end of the reign of King David I. It is believed that both William of Douglas and Freskin the Fleming came with their families from Flanders, perhaps connected with the house of Boulogne. I don't know how you say that. Other than the possible connection with the Fleming, the wife of William of Douglas is unknown. He did, however, have one other son, and then it goes into the whole genealogy there. And finally, we'll go to House Stewart. Oh my god, 195 matches. Oh no, wait. Oh, it's come up. Never mind. I was thinking I'd have to rechange my my fine settings, but no, here we have it. Okay, so Stewart. We have already discussed the Stewart family in some detail in Chapter 1. Clan Stewart website states the following. The Stewarts descend from the seneschals of Dol in Brittany, France. They came to England with William the Conqueror. Walter the Stewart came to Scotland with King David I. This is what I'm saying about King David, giving all these Normans positions, because the Davidian Revolution. Walter was created Steward of Scotland and given estates in Renfrewshire and East Lothian. So, like I said, this is totally refuting what Jed Skeptic was saying about how they backdoored their way in and snuck in and all the rest. They were appointed, they were given royal positions. The king gave them these lands and offices and estates and all that sort of thing. So that's not sneaking, that's the opposite. That's by royal decree. Learn the difference. James, 5th High Steward, swore fealty to Edward I of England, but later joined William Wallace in his quest for Scottish independence. On Wallace's death, he pointed the cause of... he joined... I don't know why I say pointed there, sorry. He joined the cause of the Bruce. Walter Stewart married the Bruce's daughter Marjorie, thus securing the kingship for his son on the death of Bruce's only son David II. Sir Walter's son and Bruce's grandson Robert Stewart became King Robert II. The royal line continued with male heirs until Mary Queen of Scots. The Stuarts held the Scottish and later the English throne from Robert II until 1714. Among the septs allied with the Stuarts are several having Sephardic ties. These include Lombard, Lyle, Donlevy, Levac, Leah, Lou, Lewis, Rob, Mitchell, Glass, Jameson, and Jameson. The Lev surnames derive from the Hebrew tribe of Levi, Rob and Reuben, Mitchell from Michal, Jameson from Chame, and Glass from glass production as Sephardic skill. Lombard from Langobardi, the 6th century invaders of Italy, was an early medieval name for money changers from Italy, many, if not most of them, Jewish. In England, it became synonymous with banker and left its heritage in the name of the main street in the city of London where the stock exchange took shape. In medieval Oxford, Lombard Hall was named after its Jewish proprietor. As we explained in Chapter 1, His Royal Highness Prince Michael Stewart claims to be of Davidic Jewish descent. In Chapter 5, we will present documentation concerning Jewish communities dwelling in France prior to the arrival of the Normans. To complete the picture of Scots Jewish families, however, it is probably most appropriate to include in this chapter several Stuart-connected genealogies which suggest a strong Jewish ancestry, feeding into those Norman, Frankish, French, Hungarian, and Flemish families that made their way to England and onwards to Scotland during the 1050 to 1150 time period. And it goes on from here. Figure 4, Hungarian descent of the kings of Scots. That, yep, definitely, because St. Margaret was a Saxon princess who was born in Hungary. Shows the descent to Margaret, the wife of Malcolm Canmore, 1058 to 1093, who became King of Scots at the time of the Norman conquest of England. Notably, Margaret descends from several persons who would appear to be Jews, among them Zoltan, his consort, the daughter of Maroth, Prince of Behar, Giza, Prince of the Magyars, whose first daughter was named Judith, female form of Judah, and whose second daughter married a king of Hungary named Samuel. The genealogy of Maud, Matilda de Lenz, shows that Malcolm and Margaret's son, David I of Scots, also appeared to marry a woman of Jewish descent, Maud de Lenz. Her ancestors included Louis the Pious, the king of the Franks, who was married to Judith. The same genealogy also indicates that the grandmother of William the Conqueror was a French woman named Judith, and further that Maud de Lenz's mother was also named Judith. Although it may seem odd to place as so much emphasis on the female given name Judith, keep in mind that this was the Middle Ages, a time when the ethnic identity of given names was of critical importance. It is very unlikely that a woman of noble birth would be named Yehuda unless she was indeed a Jewess, and it was wished by her parents that she be recognized as such. The degree of consanguinity, I don't know if I'm butchering that word, in the family of the conqueror also becomes apparent from this genealogy. The Vatican tried to prevent his marriage to Matilda of Flanders, his 8th cousin twice removed, related to him within a forbidden 11 degrees of canon. Now we have the family tree here. law. Maud de Lens was also his cousin in the same degree. His children went even farther. Henry was his Bude Clerk's second wife was Aldicia, daughter of Ida and Geoffrey of Brabant. She was a third cousin through one parent and a fourth cousin through the other. Figure 6 shows the descent path to Isabel of Mar, who married Robert I Bruce and was the mother of Marjorie Bruce and grandmother of Robert II, the first Stuart monarch. Through Isabel's mother, Helen, her lineage continues back to Iago, Jacob. It's also worth mentioning that the name James is another version of James is Jacob. When we had 6 Scottish kings called James. In other words, we had 6 Scottish kings called Jacob, which is about as biblical as you get. King of Gwynedd, Wales. By the same reasoning used with Judith, we can infer, given the historical context, that the name Jacob marked one as a Jew, like I just said. Figure 7 shows the ancestry of Mary of Guise, wife of James V of Scotland. Here we see the extensive entry of Middle Eastern and Mediterranean ancestry into the royal Stuart lineage. Persons such as Isaac Angelos, Hassan Artsum, Stephen of Armenia, John, Isaac, Komnenos, Isabel of Cyprus, Esther, Judith, Bon of Bohemia, and Louis and Duke of Saxony are certain to have contributed not only Judaic but also Central Asian and Mediterranean heritage to the Scottish royal family. So there we have it. And it just kind of goes on from there. I'll just keep going. It shows the ancestry of the House of Boulogne and Kings of Jerusalem. And I knew, by the way, having visited Stirling Castle, that Mary Queen of Scots was descended from the Kings of Jerusalem, as in the Christian Kingdom of Jerusalem, the Crusades Kingdom. But it could also be the one in the Bible too, by the looks of things, to which many of our Scottish clans are linked. We start out with Dagobert, the first king of the Franks, and a Merovingian rumoured by various biblical conspiracy theorists to be of Jewish ancestry, possibly Davidic. I'd say at this juncture that's probably a pretty safe bet. We follow this line down to Theodoric, named Makar Theodoric, whom we will discuss presently when we turn to Saint Makar of Scotland in chapter 5. In the same line, just below him, we find William de Toulouse de Guélan, the Davidic descended head of the Jewish state of Septimania in southern France and founder of the Judaic Academy of Guélan. We will also discuss him at some length in a future chapter. Significantly, we see Judaic naming patterns among the Merovingians. Yep, this is something that Michael Desarian talks about a lot in Unslaved. He talks about the Merovingians a lot, especially when you go into episodes dealing with the Templars and Carolingians. Charlemagne names one of his daughters Dahuda, in other words Davida, a feminine form of David, and one of his sons, Louis the Pious, as we have already noticed, married Judith of Bavaria. Poignantly, these lineages continue onward until they reach the Bouillons and Baldwins. I'm not trying to say that one. I don't know how you say that. Who served as the kings of Jerusalem during the Crusades. Like I just said, it all ties back. But let's see if we can pull up the previous thing it was talking about, the Stuarts in chapter 1. If you'll bear with me. So here we have Prince Michael Stewart, who's I think he's one of the authors of this book, one of the main sources. This is circumstance, Davidic ancestry, that's Jewish from King David, and therefore a Jew by descent. The Stuarts were among that set of French families who came to England with William the Conqueror and his Norman army in 1066. Originally named Fitz Alan, the family took the name of Stewart after serving as royal stewards to the Bruce. dynasty. Makes perfect sense. Now, is this what I read before, or is this... Okay. I think this is new. Or is it? No, this is just the same that I read before. But there you have it. Pretty good book, this. I definitely recommend it if you're Scottish or Jewish or both.